Okay, so let's talk about the upstairs downstairs brain and co-regulation of emotion and how this applies to parenting, and especially when your child is in fight or flight, especially the fight part, the anger part. We've talked about the upstairs downstairs brain and fight or flight when it comes to anxiety and your child and how they can understand this for themselves. It's really helpful to understand when it comes to looking at ourselves as parents and adults interacting with children as well. So when babies are born, they're born with a lot of this bottom part of their brain developed. Either all of it, parts of it are fully developed and parts of it are mostly developed because babies have to survive. And this is where their survival system is, in this downstairs brain. So those big emotions and that fight or flight is there as well, so they can draw their caregivers to them, so they can cry and they can scream and wail so that they bring us to them so that we can take care of them so they can survive. And then the top part of the brain, the frontal cortex and prefrontal lobe and prefrontal cortex, all this thinking, logic, reason, problem solving, emotional management, all these wonderful systems up here and executive functions up here, that doesn't fully form until mid to late 20s. And for some children with ADHD, autism, other things, it'll form later and sometimes maybe not form fully at all. And forming doesn't mean mastery, as we all know. Just means that the tissue in the brain is formed. So we have this bottom part of the brain formed in infancy, and then the top part doesn't form until mid to late 20s. And so the helpful thing about realizing this is that the children have this ability to have gigantic emotions and to go into fight or flight. And when they do that, they lose that access to logic, reasoning, problem solving, emotion management. They flip their lids, right? Knowing that helps us to remember, when we can remember, we do the stop, stop, and breathe. We kind of calm ourselves down. Remember that when they are activated, they don't have access to logic and reason up here. This is a developmental thing. They don't have access to that. So we are their logic and reason. We are their prefrontal cortex. We are their calming for them until they develop that themselves. Just like we diaper and do their toileting tasks for them until they can take that over. We do their walking or driving for them until they can take that over. We do the cooking for them until they can take that over. And then once a child can developmentally, whenever he or she can take over any of these tasks, then they do. And it usually is kind of a process. The same thing with anger, but for some reason, usually we as adults are more triggered by anger than most other things. Anger is pretty triggering for us. So it's so helpful to remember this is there's something happening in the brain. And some children, if I've sent this video to you, we've talked about it, your child has come with a much more sensitive system, that negativity bias and that neuroception, they have this system that tends to go into fight or flight much more often, much easier. And so it is going to be tough for you. And this is not something that you have done. You've not broken your child. Your child isn't broken, and you've not caused this. This is just how sometimes some of us are. So when they don't have access to this top part of the brain, it's helpful for us to know that so that we can remember. We remember then we have to bring calm to the chaos. We have to bring calm to their nervous system, bring calm to their brain. We have to bring calm to the situation. We bring anger management to the anger because they don't have it yet. They develop it as they experience it from us. Just like they develop the ability to walk as we help them to learn how to walk. We don't just say, go learn how to walk. We're helping them with it. And as we are calming for them, that is, in those moments of us calming them, they develop the neural pathways for self-regulation. And this is really easy to see in babies. My example I always give is if there's a baby crying in a crib, we would never say, knock that crying off. And once you're calm, then I'll come pick you up. We always will pick up a baby to see what's wrong, to try to determine if they're wet, if they're poopy, if they need to be changed, if they're hungry, if they're tired and need to be swaddled or rocked, if they are hot or cold, what is the need, or if they just need to be held while they cry. They just have this buildup in their system and they need to have that release of the buildup. And sometimes that is what happens with babies too. And so then we meet that need, we calm, we soothe, we rock, walk, we change our facial expressions and our voice. And as we do that, they calm down. It's called co-regulation of emotion. And this co-regulation, this attunement is another word in the field. Attunement is where we tune into what they are needing, and then we provide those needs. And as we provide those needs, we're co-regulating. We are regulating their systems for them. It's in those moments of regulation where we're regulating for them that their systems are able to develop the neural pathways and the abilities to self-regulate. Now, again, if you're getting this video, and we've talked about this a little bit, then you know that your child actually needs a whole lot more of this than other kids, which is so hard and so frustrating, and so it's just so exhausting. It is. It's so exhausting. And it's easy to get caught up in traditional old school parenting of there's a choice and a consequence, a behavior and a consequence. And if they're not getting this, then we need to like toughen up. But if we think about it, I sometimes do artwork. If I have 3 paintbrushes and 5 colors of paint, will I need less organization or more organization? Well, maybe not as much. If I have 100 paintbrushes and 500 things of paint, will I need less organization or more organization? I need a whole lot more organization, right? Same thing with a child who has an easily triggered fight or flight system versus a less triggered fight or flight system. I've got 2 cousins super close to me in age, and one has a child. They both had kids at the same time. So we're all 3 super close in age. They are siblings. They're just a year apart from each other. And then they had their oldest children in the same year. And they are night and day difference. Like one is a super mellow, super calm child, like just almost too mellow, like bump on a log. And the other one was, as a child, everything, like everybody was angry at him all the time. Like, stop it, stop it, stop it. He had so much energy and he was always in trouble. So which one needed more? Well, the kid who was always in trouble and always active and angry a lot and into things a lot, he needed more support and more help and more guidance and more of the adults, like baby stepping with him and breaking things down into the kind of skill building that he needed. He needed that more, not anger more or punishments more. He needed more help. And so same thing with your child. Your child has an easily triggered alarm system. That's just how they came. And so they need more support and more help and more calm from us, the adults in their lives, versus less. And so we can think about that. And this is not enabling. This is not coddling. We still have the limits and the boundaries that they need. So we're never going to be saying, oh, you have an easily triggered fight or flight system. Okay, well then, yes, you can do as many video games as you want. And you never have to do your homework or go to bed. Like that's not what we're saying at all. We're just saying that when they're angry, we can validate and understand and do that so that we can calm down that brain and get their whole brain back on working together, calm down their system so that we can then move into, so now what can we do with this anger? I'm always here to listen to you. You don't have to yell to get my attention. I'm here for you. We'll get through this together. And then over time, and some kids will take a lot of time, like years. And that's just as how some of us are. Some of us take a long time for this. So that's just, I want you just to remember that there is this co-regulation, attunement. Remember this brain, we've got to get that brain back online again, the whole brain working together, not just this part activated. We don't want to continue to activate that lower part, adding fuel to that fire with our own anger and fight or flight. We've got to calm ourselves down and then help our child to calm down so we can get on to the next step.